Ever get that feeling, that the past has these incredible stories just sort of tucked away, waiting?
Hmm.
Well, today, you're definitely in for a treat because we're uncovering two stories like that. Two really remarkable artworks that, well, they spend a long time out of sight.
Yeah, it's about rediscovery, really.
Exactly. Get ready to rediscover some pretty compelling pieces of Hungarian history and culture.
And what's so interesting here is how these two pieces almost run in parallel. Both huge artistic achievements,
Right.
both deeply tied into Hungarian history, the art trends of the time, and both have had this amazing return to public view after being hidden away for decades,
Absolutely. So we're diving into Arpad Festi's massive The Burial of Christ triptych.
which is just stunning in scale.
And Sandor Liesenmeyer's grand painting, The News of the Election of Matthew Corvinus, long title here, is announced by the Hungarian delegation at the Poggibred Court in Prague.
Quite a mouthful, that one.
It is.
Yep.
So our mission for this deep dive, we want to really get into their historical and artistic weight,
Understand why they were made, how they fit their times.
Yeah, and why it's such a big deal that we can see them again today. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with Festi's triptych.
Sounds good. Arpad Festi. I mean, he was a really significant figure in 19th century Hungarian art, known for those huge historical works like the Festi Panorama
Right, that famous one.
and his marriage. That's interesting, too. He married Yokai Rosa.
The adopted daughter of Yokai Moore, the writer.
Exactly. So that put him right in the center of Hungary's intellectual and cultural elite. Definitely shaped his perspective, you'd think.
And the burial of Christ. Wow, it really shows that ambition. We're talking, what, 14 meters long?
14 meters long, maybe 3.5, 4 meters wide. It's about 52 square meters of canvas. Just enormous.
Incredible. He sketched it out between 1896 and 98.
Yeah, the sketches were done then, and he finished the oil painting itself in Florence in 1901.
And it wasn't hidden away immediately, was it? It actually toured.
No, not at all. It had quite the debut. Toured Europe, shown in major museums, Berlin, Dresden, before it came to Budapest in 1902. And the Hungarian state, they saw its importance. They bought it the next year, 1903.
That says something, the state investing in a piece that size.
Oh, definitely. It shows a real ambition for Hungarian art on a European stage, tackling these big religious and historical themes. It signals its cultural significance right away.
Okay, so fast forward a bit, 1913, it ends up in Arad.
That's right, for the opening of the Cultural Palace there.
And it wasn't alone. I read something about other paintings going too.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. Over 100 other paintings from the Museum of Fine Arts in Budapest were sent along with it.
100. Imagine the impact of that arrival in Arad.
It must have been a massive cultural moment for the city. Really positioned Arad as an important center back then.
So let's get into the triptych itself. 3 panels, right? Religious theme, the burial of Christ.
Correct. Left panel is the descent from the cross of the dead Christ. Center is the funeral procession. And the right is weeping, or women wailing at the tomb of Christ.
Looking at that left panel, the descent, you see the 3 crosses, but the outer 2 are only partly shown?
Yeah, it's a striking composition. Christ's body is being lowered. And look, Festi actually painted himself in
No way. As who?
as the executioner.
Wow. That's a choice?
Isn't it? Adds a fascinating layer. You've also got Joseph of Arimathea, Mary looking utterly heartbroken,
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene at Christ's feet,
Mm-hmm.
and then these sort of symbolic figures. Lazarus is there, representing resurrection, and this figure called the Spirit of the Age, and a different woman kind of looking away.
The spirit of the age?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah, it seems to invite you to think about maybe contemporary indifference or reaction to such a profound event. And you see skulls on the ground, too.
Ah, Golgotha. Place of the skull.
Exactly. It's dramatic. It blends the sacred with the personal.
Yeah.
Quite powerful.
Okay, the middle panel, the funeral procession. That one has a real flow to it, doesn't it? Down from the top left.
Yes, a strong diagonal. Christ's body, veiled, carried by 4 men. And in the foreground, Joseph of Arimathea, again, Festi, used his journalist friend Sturm Albert as the model.
Oh, right. You mentioned his connections.
Yeah, it grounds it a bit. Then there's a woman with a vase, Mary Magdalene in deep grief, tearing her clothes. Mary supported by John and another disciple.
So much emotion packed in there.
Absolutely. And further back, Nicodemus, Martha, Lazarus again. And the Spirit of the Age is there too, just observing. Plus this interesting old woman with a basket in the corner.
Using contemporary faces like his friend Sturm Albert was that common.
Very common for historical painters then. It was a way to bridge the gap, connect the historical event to the viewer's own time, make it feel more immediate.
And the right panel. Women wailing at the tomb.
This one is intense. Mary Magdalene in the front, almost stripped bare, face down in anguish. It's thought Feste's wife, Rosa, posed for her.
His wife. Wow. That's another personal dimension.
Definitely. Then the Virgin Mary, just consumed by sorrow. Mary Salome, the mother of James.
Yeah.
All expressing grief. And on the right, this figure in black,
Who is that meant to be?
often interpreted as destiny, looming there. And notice the details, the flowers, the cypresses. Feste was meticulous.
Yeah, the level of detail is incredible. You mentioned that white stone wall appears somewhere else.
It does. He uses a very similar motif later in a work in St. Stephen's Basilica in Pest. Kind of visual signature, maybe?
So Feste's goal seems clear. Make this huge biblical event feel personal, right? Relatable.
I think so. Through the massive scale, the life-size figures, the detailed settings, he pulls you in.
And the technique, you said it was a mix.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He uses a more traditional academic style for the main figures and background, but the foreground elements, like the plants, they have an almost impressionistic feel.
Why do that? What's the effect?
It creates this sense of immediacy, like you're right there. The background gives it historical weight. The foreground makes it feel present. It's a way of blending tradition and, well, a more modern sensibility, connecting the epic theme with raw, immediate emotion.
So the main theme is Christ's sacrifice, his heroism shown visually.
Undeniably, a powerful depiction of the Savior's love and suffering.
And this hung in Arad for decades in its own room.
Yeah, from 1913 right up until the early 1960s, it had pride of place.
But then things changed. The ideology shifted.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
In the early 60s, with the rise of, well, state-sponsored atheism, it just didn't fit. So they covered it up, hid it,
Covered up a 14-meter painting. How?
presumably with drapes or boarding initially. But then, in 1977, they actually took it down, rolled it up,
Rolled it up. A masterpiece like that.
and put it in the museum basement. It's almost unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stored away, essentially forgotten.
For how long?
Until 2016, really. That's when the Culty Association started pushing to find it, to bring it back.
Thank goodness for them.
Absolutely. And then began the long process restoration in Sibiu from 2018.
Must have been painstaking work.
Immense, I imagine. It finally returned to Arad later that year in October 2018.
And back on display.
Yes, finally re-exhibited in the art gallery of the Arad Museum Complex from May 2022, after 60 years.
60 years hidden away. That's incredible.
It really speaks to the power of art, doesn't it? And the dedication of people who preserve cultural heritage, but also how politics and ideology can just erase things from view.
A sobering thought. Okay, let's shift gears to our second painting. Sandor Liesenmayer, another big name from that era.
Definitely. Another key figure in that 19th century Hungarian historical academic style, part of that really important generation of artists.
And his painting depicts, remind me of the title.
The news of the election of Matthew Corvinus as king is announced by the Hungarian delegation at the Pojebrad court in Prague.
Right. So the historical moment is Matthias Corvinus becoming king.
Exactly. After King Ladislaus V died, Matthias was young, and he was technically under the guardianship of Prince George Pojebrad in Prague. Matthias was elected king back in Hungary in January 1458.
So the painting shows the delegation coming to tell him, or tell Pojebrad.
It shows them arriving at Pojebrad's court in Prague. The delegation, led by János Vitez, also including Szilágyi Mihály, who was Matthias's uncle and a powerful figure himself,
And their mission was?
to officially announce the election results and basically persuade Pojebrad to let the new king go back to Hungary.
But you mentioned historical liberties. The scene didn't exactly happen like this.
That's right. It's a bit romanticized. While the delegation did go, historical sources suggest they actually met Matthias later, closer to the border, not necessarily in this dramatic confrontation at court.
Okay. Why do that then? Why change the details?
Well, it makes for a much more dramatic painting. It allows Liesenmayer to stage this powerful encounter between the Hungarian lords and the Bohemian court, centered on the young king-to-be. Creates a symbolic focus.
Makes sense from an artistic point of view. So in the painting, who are the key figures we see?
János Vitez is central, very imposing in his white and gold bishop's robes, holding his scepter. Kneeling before him is Szilágyi Mihály, looking quite elegant, sword at his side.
And Matthias, where's he?
He's on the right, young, shown with surprisingly short hair, actually. He's flanked by Pojebrad's wife and daughter, Catalin.
Catalin. Wasn't she Matthias's fiancée?
She was indeed, and Matthias himself has this gesture of surprise, hands to his chest, as if taken aback by the news.
And there are clues about his education.
Yes, subtle things. An open book near him, scattered papers, writing tools. It hints at his learning, his humanist side.
The whole scene looks incredibly detailed. The furniture, the carpet.
That's very typical of the style. Historical accuracy in the setting, the late Gothic table, the cupboard, the Turkish carpet, the door that was really important to these academic painters, getting the period details just right.
So Liesenmeyer was part of this specific movement.
Right, that generation from the 1860s onward, often trained in Vienna or Munich. They mixed Romanticism's drama with Historicism's detail. Think of artists like Madurais Victor, Sekely Bertolin, Lotz Caroli,
A really influential group.
huge figures. And their work tells us a lot about how figures like Matthias Corvinus were viewed back then, especially leading up to the Millennium celebrations,
How was he viewed?
as the ideal ruler,
Yeah.
basically. His reign was seen as Hungary's golden age, the peak of the national age. He was portrayed as just, democratic, caring, plus this great patron of arts and science.
A real hero figure. Was
Mhm.
there a specific reason for that idealization then?
It certainly fit the mood of nation building and defining national identity in the late 19th century. Looking back to a glorious past, a strong, enlightened Hungarian king, it resonated with the times.
And other art reflected this too.
Oh, absolutely. Think of Lotz Caroli's murals in the Academy of Sciences. Matthias is like the central figure of humanism there, almost like Raphael's Plato or Aristotle.
Right, I know the ones.
Or Benzur's paintings for Buda Castle, even unfinished. They have that 15th century Italian Quattrocento feel, connecting Matthias to the High Renaissance.
And the National Museum.
Yep, the paintings on the staircase there include a scene in Matthias's library, surrounded by scholars, emphasizing that intellectual side.
So a consistent image being built across different artworks.
Definitely. Even later works, like one by Erd Erno in 1940, kept engaging with Matthias. And Liesenmeyer's own colleague, Wagner Sandor, painted Matthias defeating Holobar, though that one's lost now.
This focus on Matthias, it really ramped up during the Millennium celebrations, didn't it?
It did. This cult of Matthias really peaked then. They even redid rooms in the art gallery to look like knightly halls from his time.
Seriously?
Yeah. And there was this huge ice sculpture of him at a festival in 1909 by Matthias Strobel.
An ice sculpture, that's commitment.
It all fed into this desire for a great national monument to him, which took a while. Ferencius Vaughan had the idea way back, but as Fadrusianus's equestrian statue in Cluj unveiled in 1902, that really became the image.
The famous one on horseback?
That's the one. Seen as a key symbol of Hungarian identity, a masterpiece of historicist art. The state even commissioned a smaller version for Buda Castle.
So back to Liesenmeyer. What happened with his painting after the Millennium?
Well, Liesenmeyer himself had a distinguished career. Directed the Stuttgart Academy, taught in Munich. He painted this for the Millennium celebrations.
And it was well received.
Hugely. The state bought it. He got a gold medal. It was reproduced everywhere, became very well known.
And its journey afterwards?
It went through the National Gallery collection, then the Museum of Fine Arts, and then, just like the Festi triptych, it ended up in Arad just before World War I.
Wow, so they both ended up there around the same time.
Yeah, an interesting convergence. It really shows how artworks move around, reflecting changing priorities and, well, historical events.
So wrapping this up, it's really clear these two paintings, Festi's Burial and Liesenmeyer's Matthias, and their rediscovery, they're incredibly important, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. For understanding Hungarian history, art, culture, they're like windows into the past.
They show us the art trends, the national feeling of 19th century Hungary.
Exactly. Festi tackling universal themes on that epic scale, Liesenmeyer capturing that fascination with a romanticized national history, building up these hero figures.
It gives you a real sense of the time.
It does. They tell us so much about how a nation saw itself or wanted to see itself.
So here's something to think about as we finish. How did the shifting politics, the cultural changes we talked about, how did that affect not just why these were painted, but whether people got to see them and how they were understood over time?
That's crucial. Visibility isn't guaranteed. Interpretation changes.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other amazing pieces might still be out there, maybe in an archive, maybe rolled up in a basement somewhere, just waiting?
It's a compelling thought. Definitely encourages you to stay curious, to keep exploring Hungary's rich artistic past and the artists who shaped it. There's always more to discover.